What's going on, everyone? A big welcome to you all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta. Today you're here with Boiii, and in this video we'll actually talk about the reprints. So we will talk about the cards that we will get in the revival selection, and we will talk about Spike Brothers first. Some of my teammates maybe will make some videos to talk about other reprints as well, and if we should made the right choice or not. So let's talk about them. Which one do we have and which one we should have got? So what I have right here is my deck box, and I will take my premium deck out and we will see how much cards I have in my favorite premium deck that actually got reprinted. So going through my G zone, the cards that I have right now in here that got reprinted, first is the G-Guard, which is Lioness. This G-Guard already have been reprinted, but yet again. Second card is of course the GB8. Third card is Agrius himself. And when we get into the actual deck, so not only the G-Zone, we will see that some cards that are in here are also have got a reprint, which is like the Jelly Beans, which is like, or such as like the Mega Trainer right here. So these 5 cards are cards that we actually still play in most of our Spike Brother decks. The Jelly Beans is actually a very hard to get card. The Mega Trainer could be troublesome to get. The GB8 the same thing. These not that much. Why? Because the Agrius is actually not that expensive anymore and you could still find it in stock. And the Lioness already have been reprinted before in an SP, so in my eyes it should be easier to get. The last 2 cards that we have got are, of course, the Stand Trigger, being not Mega Instructor, but being the Devil Watch. And this is actually quite interesting that they chose to do the Devil Watch. And last but not least, they gave us the old Rising Nova, which is, again, if you ask me, a strange choice. So for Rising Nova, we'll take the SP right here because I know the card exists in SP. So this is actually the reprints, and now we will talk about them. So let's start with the cards that I had in my deck. So these are the cards that are in my deck. The first card that actually needed a reprint, and it's supposed to be more than a rare, is the Jelly Beans. So Jelly Beans being reprinted, that's something really good, because it's very hard to get card, and lots of people have or want to get it to try the deck out, but they just can't get it because it's nowhere in stock. People that have it will never give it away. People that have it will never sell it, and that's one of the reasons why this card was really hard to get. And it's a card from what, set 2? It's set 3, so it's just crazy that it's very hard to get, and that's understandable. So this is one of the cards that they did really good job to reprint. So that's number 1 on the list on a good reprint. The second one we have on the list is actually the GB8 himself. Why? This is also another set that wasn't printed that much, and because of that, it's another card that's hard to get. And sometimes if you find it in stock, then you could actually find it very expensive. And again, people that have 2 or 3 copies of it would rather keep it than give it away or sell it. So it's another card that's actually so hard to get, but it's a very necessary card to play in Spike Brothers because it's just one of the strongest strides in the whole game, or maybe even the strongest. Whenever you reach him, most of the time it's actually just game over. So this is definitely the second card we have right here. The third card is actually the Mega Trainer himself. Why? This is a card that you could play more copies of in your deck, although some people actually don't really play Mega Trainer but play the new Mega Trainer or just the new V-Starter. But still, this is a very tactic card. It needs a counterblast, yes, it's a foreigner, which is good because you could put triggers on it, and whenever you don't want to hit your opponent, you undercut your opponent. And that's one of the reasons why the card is actually so effective. So having to have that copy of it in your deck in a triple R foiling is actually also really nice. The same for Jelly Beans. So this would definitely be a card that you want to have in your deck in triple R foiling, or just want to get if it's hard to get. Although this card should be in stock at some shops and it should not be that expensive and people have lots of copies of it, but still sometimes people want at least to keep 4, so they would not trade it that easy. And now we get to the final 4, and although I dislike that they did Lioness, reprinted him yet again, I do approve. Why? Because of the fact that this card is really necessary to have in Spike Brothers yet again. It's a huge shield value, it's a tactical card that you can put your regulars into your soul, which is good for your soul charging management, but also just to get rid of cards that your opponent could lock or could retire or anything, which makes it a very, very, very good card as a shield value that it has, but also just because of the fact that it's tactical good. And now we get into the last 3 cards. And I had to put Agrius right here again because it's a card that comes out of my deck, and it's a card that you play in like every Spike with the deck, even in the GB8, even in the Turbo GB8, you actually do play a copy, like the pair, the 2 copies of him, because it's a very good card. It helps you to rush your opponent, it helps you to put pressure, it draws you a card, it recalls units, so that you have some units that on place have an ability that could work again. It's very, very good to put pressure on your opponent without having to commit too much to the field. Then we come to the last 2 cards. I don't understand the necessary of having Devil Watch being reprinted. It's not an expensive card, it's not a hard to get card, and it's not a card that we also play that much in our decks. We do play it sometimes, but as a one-off, but most of the time there is another stand trigger that we play a lot that would have got the reprint and the triple R foiling, which would be nice. The same goes for Rising Nova. It's another card that we actually don't play anymore. There is no reason to play the old Rising Nova. They could have reprinted the new Rising Nova, and that would have been okay. But in my eyes, these cards should not have been reprinted. There is no reason to reprint them. So I will put them at this order. So we have the starting order is Jelly Beans, which have been the best card, have been reprinted. Then we have the GB8, then we have Mega Trainer, then Lioness, then Aquarius, and then these 2. Out of these cards, I would say that these are the cards that was necessary to reprint, at least these 2. And adding the Mega Trainer is just the icing on the cake because it's another card that we would love to have in higher foiling. But these, not necessarily. Why? Because the Aquarius already existed in the other version of him, which I will show you right away, which is strange because it's just a card that we already have in 2 different foiling, which in the double R foiling and the SP foiling. So right here we already have the 2. So why would you reprint this card? It's not that hard to get a card. You should find it in stock, and there is in my eyes no reason to reprint this. Although I could understand if people want to get into Spike Brothers and they don't have it, and now they get this, these are all cards that they could play. So this could be iffy. The same goes for this card. It's iffy, it's not needed, it's already reprinted multiple times, but yes, it's a necessary card to have in Spike Brothers in your G-Zone. The same goes for Aquarius. For these 2, I think they should not have been reprinted, and for that reason, I will actually put them at the bottom right here. So what other cards they could have reprinted to give us a better reprints, or to give people that started playing the game better reprints? Well, let's get into my beautiful purple spike binder, and let's just actually go through the cards and see what we have right here. So I will take these out and we will talk about the cards that they could have put into the reprints. So right here you can see these are the SPs that we have got, or most of the SPs that we have got. And right here we can see that we have Lioness, and it's just, yes, agreed, it is an okay reprint, but is it really necessary? Well, if you ask me, not that much. There are some other cards that actually could have been nice to get a reprint of, this, like Miracle Ace. Miracle Ace is a stride that we don't really play that much, but there will be plays, or they could be plays in the future that you could play him. And for that reason, this would have been a great reprint to have instead of the Agrius right here. But again, I could understand them reprinting these. So when we get into these, there is actually no reason to reprint anything else on this page. There is no reason to reprint this G-Guard, there is no reason to reprint the Supernova, and also the same goes for Picaro because it's already reprinted multiple times. Other strides that we have of course the Dudley strides, no need for a reprint. These are already having a reprint. and this is a card that you don't play that much. Even with the Dudley support, there is no viable good Dudley deck that you would play. And for the other strides, also again, there is no reason. This is a new card, so there is no reason to reprint it. This would have been nice to get a reprint of, although again, it's not an expensive card, so there is no reason to reprint it as well. When we get to the G guards, there is actually a card that should have got a reprint, which is this card. This is definitely a card that deserves to be in a triple rare foiling, because just the rare is not enough, and it's a card that we play a lot in our decks. And why do I say this? Why do I rather have this card than this getting reprinted? Is because when you see Spike of the players, you actually see people that really commit to the clan. And most of them have all the cards, except specific cards like Jelly Beans and other cards like Megatrain that they could not get because they are so old. But cards like Lioness, actually most of the people just have 3 or 4 copies of Lioness and they are good to go. But when it comes to this card again deserves to be in triple R foiling. So if you ask me, I would rather have this getting reprinted than Lioness, or just both of them getting reprinted and just take out the Rising Nova, which was just no reason to reprint at all. When it comes to these, this is another card that we do play a lot in Spike Brothers, which is the Dudley Mountie. It's a card which has Dudley in its card name. It's a vanilla and it's just good because you could use it with the cards like Zazan. You could just get it to your hand with the Dudley or Jelly Beans, and because it's a Dudley card, and you could ride into it. Even before, like in the old days, we did play this because sometimes you just don't have a great 2 in your hand and you don't want to G-assist into that, so you would just use Jelly Beans to get this and this would be your ride. Or defensively, this was also good because most of the grade 2s were 9k, so this was always a good card, and it's a card that never got a reprint because it's just a promo. So it's a card that could be hard to get for some people, and this would have been a good reprint in my eyes. Again, the 2 cards that they should not have reprinted are the Devil Watch and of course the just the Rising Nova. When it comes to this, of course, the Rising Nova we see right here. This is another card that could have get a reprint if it was an SP. This definitely deserves to be an SP. It's my favorite card, but also it's just a good card that we keep playing depending on the deck, because this also makes a great combo with lots of your other cards that have charge as well, which is Fake Bomber or Mega Instructor. All the other cards that you see right here on the page doesn't really need to have a reprint. The same goes for Juggernaut or Skydiver or even Hivemaker. Hivemaker is a card that you do see played, but it's not that hard to get because again it's just a rare, not that expensive. Mayhem Tiger is another card that I would have loved to see in triple R foiling, but again it's not necessary because it's a card that we don't play that much anymore, so again understandable that people don't have this in their deck. And so understandable that this is not a card that got a reprint. All the other cards right here the same, although we do play this in some of our decks, but again it's not necessary to reprint them. So we could actually go throughout the whole binder. This would have been a good reprint in the past, but it's not needed anymore because we don't play it anymore. This also could be a good reprint, but again these cards are not hard to get, although this could be expensive to get. When it comes to the PGs or other great ones, this is a crazy card, would also have been very nice to get. Although people don't play it right now, but it still could be a very good card to play because again, it only needs Rising Nova. And because we play DV Rising Nova in most of our Spike decks, this card still works. But it works with charging units, and because of that reason, we don't really play it. But if you have gave us the stand trigger, which is Mega Instructor, then it would have been very, very, very good. There are no cards in here that needs a reprint, even not the Devil Flag right here, because again, it's another card that is easy to get. So when it comes to the starters or the grade zeros that we have right here, normal units, grade zeros, the only card that needs or needed a reprint in my eyes is of course Mega Trainer, because it does definitely deserve to be in the triple R foiling. When it comes to the triggers, again for the stand trigger, it is just so crazy and stupid that Devil Watch got a reprint and not Mega Instructor. Mega Instructor is a card that you definitely need to have if you're a Spike Brothers fan or you want to try Spike Brothers out. This card is so insanely good that it's just necessary to have. not really in your deck, but while you're building your deck, you do need to have this card to think about the possibilities what this card is capable of. So again, this would have been the right stand to reprint and not Devil Watch. And I understand that we should have maybe have reprinted Devil Watch because it's an older card, and because these maybe you could still find in stock, but this maybe not. But that's just stupid, because this is one of the cards that you maybe will run at 1 or at 2 in some few deck lists, but this is the card that you will see played at 4 and lots of the aggro builds. There is only one build that doesn't play it, and that's the GB8 build, but all other Spike Brother builds do play this card, even Dudley's. When it comes to the heals, yes, this would have been a nice reprint, because this is a card that you could search with your Jelly Beans, and gave us Jelly Beans back. Could understand them giving this, but they didn't, and they didn't want to reprint heals, so that's alright. And that's actually it. We have been through all the binder. So when we come back and talk again about the reprints, then the cards that they should have reprinted, which they did, are Jelly Beans, the GB8, Mega Trainer. The cards that I'm iffy about are, of course, the Agrius, and we have Linus right here. And the last two cards in my eyes that should have get reprinted are the Mega Instructor. Would have been a great card that could have got a reprint. Again, it's just a common and deserves to be more, but also sometimes it's not that easy to get. The second card that actually could have got a reprint, which have been okay or good, is of course Geese. The other card that could have got a reprint, which we would have been very happy about, is of course Rising Star, because this card deserves to be more than a double rare. But again, if this was an SP, then yes. If it was a triple R foiling, then do we really need that? It's not an expensive card to get. And of course, we do have more. These are not the only cards. As we talked about throughout the video, there are more cards that you could have reprinted, and they would have been better. But in my eyes, when it comes to the stand triggers, this would have been a better choice. And when it comes to the grade 3, this would have been a better choice to add as a rising, or just put this in there and you will be good to go. So thank you Bushiroad for the reprints. Thank you for reprinting these. I would love to see this in a triple R foiling, especially the Jelly Beans and the Mega Trainer, because they definitely deserve to be in a triple R foiling. There is one more thing that we actually need to address. When you look at the top cards that got reprinted and the cards that got as a support, you can see that 4 of these cards, the 7 cards, 4 of them are cards that support the GB8 mechanic. And this is pretty stupid and crazy at the same time. This means that actually Bushiroad is very aware of what this deck is capable of. And although we flow beneath the radar, although we take a tournament here and there, although we have so much good players that actually take tournaments like nothing, and I don't want to call names because lots of my friends know that we have a great community when it comes to Spike Brothers. And the thing is, all these 4 cards support the GB8 deck. So Bushiroad understands that GB8 is good. Bushiroad is not taking out the GB8, they're supporting the GB8, and they really don't mind we making shenanigans, crazy bullshit, crazy decks with this. The reprints of the Jelly Beans just makes it very clear, because this is not something to support the Dudleys, this is definitely something to support the GB8. And to be sure of that, we have these 2, which are 2 very important cards to run if you're going for the GB8 build. You could argue with me on this and this being cards that you play in lots of your Spike decks. The same goes for him. But this, is it support for Dudley? Nah, it's support for the GB8. This, is it support for other Spike Brother decks? No, this is just support for the Turbo deck. So again, they are actually just supporting the Turbo deck. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in our channel. Thank you for supporting us with these videos, with your likes, with your comments, with your subscribing to the channel. And we would love to see you in the next video as well. So thank you again, until next time.